Carly Ryan was born on the 31st of January 1992 and was killed on the 20th of February 2009, just a couple of weeks after her 15th birthday. Her short life tragically ended by a serial pedophile who befriended and manipulated Carly on the then popular MySpace platform. We know of this as catfishing, predatory behaviour on the internet where someone pretends to be someone they're not. But internet predator or cyberstalking was not a term back in 2007, and at that time no one really knew the extent of the danger that the internet could pose. In Carly's case, her catfisher was presenting behind the anonymity of social media as a fictitious American teenager with the fake name Brandon Kane, when in reality Brandon was actually an overweight, balding 50-year-old pervert by the name of Gary Francis Newman, who was a divorced father of 3 living with his mother. Newman was later found to have assumed as many as 200 identities to lure young and trusting victims. Brandon was just one of those creations. He struck up a romantic online relationship with Carly, becoming the boy a young teenage girl would be excited about, an attractive 18-year-old American musician, relating to Carly by identifying himself as part of the emo subculture that Carly had emerged herself in. And Gary would continue with this cruel and twisted ruse for 18 long months. Throughout that year and a half, Brandon and Carly had shared intimate details about their lives. Carly had spoken about where she lived with her mother, about her friends, and she'd even posted some inappropriate pictures with him. Brandon had talked about how he played guitar and lived with his adopted father, Shane, who would sometimes speak with Carly. But when Carly was planning her 15th birthday, she wanted Brandon to come. However, and conveniently, Brandon had to go overseas at that time, so he offered his dad, Shane, to come in his place. Sonia, Carly's mum, fell victim to the deception too, and she agreed to this, and Shane came and took Carly shopping, buying her corsets and lingerie as a gift for a 15-year-old child. Shane also tried to get Carly and her friends to kiss in front of him, and he made many sexually inappropriate comments to her. He then somehow convinced Carly's mum, Sonia, to let him into their house and stay the night. Obviously, at this stage, Sonia didn't know about this behaviour. But his creepiness and his strange obsession towards Carly continued throughout the night and resulted in him attempting to climb into bed with Carly, where she ultimately rejected him, and the next day Sonia instructed him to leave the house and never return. Angry, Gary Newman returned to Melbourne, vowing to fix Carly up. He used his alter ego and a troubled youth that he somehow recruited into playing the role of Brandon to lure Carly to a final fatal meeting. Then on February 2007, Gary Newman, with the help of this other youth whose identity has been protected, convinced Carly to meet up with them, where she was led to a secluded beach at Port Elliot in South Australia. There he would bash her. He pushed her face first into the sand, suffocating her, and then threw her into the water to drown. She was just 15 years old. Her beaten and injured body was found by a woman on her morning walk, washed up onto the sand at a nearby bay, probably only hours after Carly's death. Sadly, Carly is now known as Australia's first person to be killed by an online predator, but her short life has become a bit of a legacy in a few ways. Sonia went on to establish the Carly Ryan Foundation, a charity that visits schools in Australia and aims to educate and prevent young people from online crimes. Her story also resulted in legislative changes in Australia to help protect minors online. This is now known as Carly's Law, where it is now a crime for an adult to use a carriage service, like the internet, to plan or procure sexual activity with a minor. This law extends to those who misrepresent their age as well. This is a testament to Sonia Ryan, who has turned a story about the loss of a life into one that will now save many lives. My heart aches for Sonia. As a mother myself, I don't know how she found the courage and strength to do this. What an amazing woman, and I'm sure Carly would be so proud of what her mother has done and the legacy of her young life that remains. But I want to now have a look at the psychology behind a crime like this. How does this happen? And there are two sides that we could explore here. The psychology behind the behaviours and the machinations of the mind, someone like Gary Newman. But to be honest, I don't want to give him any degree of recognition or any excuse here. So I'm simply going to say that there are different reasons why some people catfish. Some catfishers are lonely and they just want a relationship with someone and they don't believe that they could have that in real life. Some catfishers are out to troll or harass their victims. Other catfishers want to scam money from their victims, or the catfishing is the first step in a plan to kidnap or physically abuse someone. Catfishers will keep you guessing. They keep you thinking. They keep you on your toes, always promising, always finding excuses, and always telling you exactly what you think you need to hear. Researchers found that loneliness, struggles with social connection, and dissatisfaction with one's physical appearance lead people to catfish. And some people with atypical sexual interests are known to catfish, as it gives them a safe opportunity to explore their sexuality in a more anonymous way. Though both men and women fall prey to catfishing, women are more likely to be victims, as are people with anxious types of attachment. Sadly, the phenomenon shows no sign of slowing down, and today there's a whole television show based on this idea. The practice is featured in movie plots, and celebs have even shared personal experiences of being catfished. If you suspect you're talking to a catfisher online, you'll want to cut ties with them as quickly as possible. And here are 9 signs to look out for. Number 1, they won't pick up a phone call. Sometimes the catfisher won't be able to talk, so there will be plenty of times they simply don't answer your call. That's if they've even given you their number. Their voicemail message is often very generic and you'll be scheduling your calls around their availability.
Sorry, I am unavailable.
Number 2, they don't have many followers or friends. Their social media accounts may not have many friends, or their account is fairly new and filled with fake friends. You might also see inconsistencies between multiple platforms, if in fact they even have bothered to create identities across different sites. Number 3, their story just doesn't add up. They might lack details in their stories, or their timelines don't align. Often stories will involve distance, faulty cameras, unavailability due to very specialised work roles, or simply mistakes in their narrative. It's easier to remember the truth. Number 4, they're using someone else's photos. If you're unsure whether a person is who they say they are, conduct a Google reverse image search based on the photos that they're using. If you find out the photos are linked to someone else's profile, you've likely exposed this person's lie. Number 5, their only photos are professional. Any profile with professional grade photos like headshots or comp cards should raise your suspicion. Most people on social media upload multiple photos of themselves and their day-to-day activities. Be wary of those who have very few photos of themselves. It's a lot less likely that someone's catfishing you if, in addition to selfies, they also upload their succulent garden or pics of their cat napping or the beach they've just visited. Look for those everyday kind of photos. Number 6, they're reluctant to meet in real life or even video chat with you. This one's pretty obvious. If they can't meet you in real life, there's usually a pretty simple explanation. And no, it's not their grandmother just died and they have to fly interstate for the funeral, or they're trapped in another country because they've lost their passport. That's a red alert. Catfishers will happily waste copious amounts of your time with excuses and fabrications like that. Number 7, they ask you for money. I don't know why I need to say this, but clearly I do, because millions are lost each year in financial scams and catfishing stories. Never send money to someone you've never met, no matter how small the amount or how authentic the story seems. Just don't do it. Number 8, they're over the top. If the person you've just met online is telling you they love you or engaging in other over-the-top behaviour, this can also be a sign you're being catfished. Attention like this can feel good, and that's why predators make such huge declarations. A young man telling the middle-aged woman she is the most beautiful thing he's ever seen in his life causes him instant love. Come on, don't let your ego make a fool of yourself. Number 9, something just feels off. Don't be afraid to trust your intuition. If something inside you is saying this doesn't feel right, then listen. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Gary Francis Newman is a convicted murderer, and he received a 29-year prison term, which commenced on March 1, 2010. I don't know whether Newman himself experienced sexual assault as a child. I know it's common in these cases, and I know Newman alleges he was assaulted as a child. But do I think Newman is where he belongs? Absolutely. He is a disgusting individual who without a doubt will reoffend if released. I actually hope he takes his last breath behind bars, not because I'm a vindictive person or because I want retribution, but because I want to ensure the safety of other young people, and that can't happen if Newman is released. In the words of Sonia Ryan, she could either buckle under the crushing grief of having lost her daughter or allow their unique love connection to fuel a crusade. She chose the latter, and because of that incredible and courageous decision, Carly's legacy lives on. Hers was the world's first truly 21st century murder, but her memory and the law named after her will forever protect Australia's children from monsters like Gary Francis Newman. Rest in peace, Carly, and continued and enduring love and strength to your precious mom.